some things just don't come across your radar. And it's kind of surprising when you hear about them because you think, how did I not notice that before? Well, this just happened to me with the word for word Bible comic. I'm surprised I've never noticed this series before. I'm a really big fan of the Action Bible. All of my kids have read through it. When I was in high school, I was a comic book reader. I would spend time in Fat Cat Comics in Johnson City, New York. But I never heard of the Word for Word Bible comics until a couple of months ago when someone mentioned them on X, formerly known as Twitter. Whoever manages the Word for Word Bible comic account was tagged in the post. And then they sent me a message and offered to send me the copy of their newest word for word Bible comic. And I was really excited to see that comic, to have it coming. I was really looking forward to reading a comic book where all of the words were exclusively coming from the text of the Bible, in this case, the NIV translation. There's a couple of translations I'd prefer more than the NIV, but for this project, I'm fine with the NIV. And then the comic arrived, and I was a little deflated, to be honest. To open it up and find the Song of Songs. I wanted King David. I wanted one of the Gospels, or Joshua and Jericho. Not the Song of Songs. My wife saw me reading this, and she just looked at me and she was like, "That's really weird." And I was like, I know, I wanted an action comic, not a love comic. And I was just scratching my head. Why even make the Song of Songs into a comic book? Eyes like doves, temples like pomegranates. This is going to be ridiculous in comic form. And then it turns out it wasn't. The Song of Songs actually might rank up as one of the best books in the Bible, maybe even the book of the Bible that could benefit the most from being turned into a comic book. They totally won me over with both the quality of this comic and also their selection of Song of Songs. Let me tell you why. Welcome to Rev Reads. If you want to discover more books that will help the Word of God come alive for you, please subscribe to the channel in order to stay up to date with my most current reviews. Also, please like and share this video with others. Let them know about the work of the Word for Word Bible comics. So let me start off by saying, I cannot think of a single negative thing to say about this comic book. I can't think of any negatives. The quality is there. The artwork is excellent. I think the creators paid great attention to detail and what we should expect to see if we had a glimpse into the world of Solomon. The illustrations are very illustrative to the story without being crude or pornographic in any way. At the same time, I would say I'm not going to encourage my 12-year-old son to read this, not because of anything in the art. I don't think there's anything bad in this book, but I don't think that I should go against the advice of Song of Songs. I think the advice in the book is you don't want to wake up those feelings of love too early. You want to let them to wait until the time comes. So this will be a great book for him when he gets older and ready to be at marriage age, but for right now, we're just going to hold that till he's ready. The background material that comes before and primarily after the main comic itself, they were excellent. They cover material on the author, the time period, and other issues with the subject matter of the Song of Songs. They take a conservative view of the story with Solomon as the author and one of his wives as the main character along with him. They also discuss the idea of Song of Songs being an allegory of Christ and the church in the conclusion without forcing that allegory into the body of the comic. It was all so good, so well done. I also want to add that this comic is written from the perspective of a two-person narrative. As in, this is a love story between Solomon and one of his wives. Now, there is an alternative view that this is a three-person love triangle, with the Shulamite bride being in love with another man, a shepherd, before Solomon comes into town and weds her, and the story is about that love triangle between the three. And these different options of the ways to take the Song of Songs or Song of Solomon are discussed in the back of the comic. But the tale itself is told from the perspective of two lovers. Now, here I want to share with you why I believe Song of Songs should be a comic and why they did such a good job putting it into a comic book. And that is, this song, when read in the Bible, can be very confusing. It switches from character to character without warning. Sometimes it's hard to know who is speaking. Is it the woman? Is it the man? Or is this before they get married? After they get married? And then we have these groups that occasionally chime in, and all of this happens without explicit transitions in the midst of the poem. Well, in a comic book form, you can easily see who is talking: the husband, the wife, the friends. It's very easy to see the flow of the story from that first meeting to falling in love to the wedding to the confusion that all marriages have after we get together. I think there are probably more people than might want to admit that they just don't get Song of Songs. They don't get it because maybe it's just too weird with the way that the bride and groom praise each other's appearance, or they get lost as the poem's moving from one speaker to another. I think readers today could get so caught up in trying to decipher what's going on, who's talking, that you miss the romance of the story. And if that's how you feel about Song of Songs, well, this comic book, this could be the key to unlocking the book for you. Honestly, the thing that I'm most nervous about with this particular comic book is that the people who would benefit from it the most in the church probably won't read it, precisely because it comes in the packaging of a comic book. But please don't stop you from reading this if you're one of those people who struggle with the Song of Songs. If you have found it difficult to really glean meaning and understanding from the Song of Songs, to get through it, if you can't understand how this makes for a good love story or good lesson on marriage and love, you need to read this comic book to make it come alive. Although the images in the comic do help with that as far as making the story come alive, but I think the most important for the images is that they just can help people understand the flow of the story. When I first got this in the mail, my first thought was, why in the world would these word-for-word Bible comic people pick the Song of Songs? And then, why, out of all the times that they get in touch with me to review one of these, it ends up being this book? But then, it ends up being excellent. There could truly be a lot of Christians who need help understanding this book of the Bible. And if you're one of those people, I hope that you will get the word-for-word Bible comic, because I believe it'll help this story both come alive for you, and also you will gain understanding in how the book flows. And I gotta say, I hope to review more of these comic books in the future, because if they maintain this great standard, I think that this will not only be a great tool to help the Bible come alive for people, but I think it'll also explain and help people to understand more than they might expect from a comic book.